The tensions surrounding UFC 321 didn't end inside the octagon. It spilled online, thanks in large part to Paddy Pimblett. While fans expected a statement performance from Umar Nurmagomedov after his first career loss, the Dagestani contender's methodical, unanimous decision win over Mario Bautista in Abu Dhabi didn't exactly deliver the fireworks many were hoping for. And few were more vocal about it than the baddie. Reacting live while streaming the event, Pimblett couldn't resist sharing his blunt thoughts. "Some of these fights are putting me to sleep, you know? Sorry to say it, everyone, but this is one boring fight," he said mid-yawn as the bout played out. He acknowledged Umar's brief moment of danger, apart from Umar hitting the deck off a knee, but doubled down, saying the fight felt more like a grappling match than a fight. It wasn't a jab at Nurmagomedov's skills, but rather frustration at what he saw as a lack of urgency or excitement in a card already heavy on wrestling. Pimblett's critique carried weight given the circumstances. Dana White had publicly challenged Umar Nurmagomedov before UFC 321 to put on a show worthy of another title shot against Merab Dvalishvili. Instead, Umar leaned into his bread and butter: disciplined wrestling, positional control, and smart defense. It was effective, he dominated most of the fight, but for fans craving chaos and highlight reel moments, it was another calculated, risk-averse performance. "Umar needs a partner," Pimblett remarked, suggesting that Bautista's defensive style, combined with Umar's patience, made for a dull spectacle. He went further, saying the Dagestani will need another win before getting another crack at the belt. "He's going to have to beat someone else if he wants a title shot," Paddy said. In fairness, Nurmagomedov's composure and technical command were on full display. He recovered quickly after being dropped early and shut down Bautista's submission threats with tight grappling sequences that showed why he's considered one of the best technicians in the division. But as Pimblett hinted, skill and entertainment don't always go hand in hand. And in modern MMA, fighters are often judged as much by how they win as whether they win. Adding to the conversation was the broader criticism of UFC 321's pacing and fight style. The card broke a record for most takedowns in a single event, 60 in total, thanks to grappling-heavy fights like Nurmagomedov versus Bautista and Mackenzie Dern versus Virna Jandiroba. While that stat highlighted elite technical execution, it also fueled complaints about a lack of action. Former champ Henry Cejudo didn't mince words, calling UFC 321 the worst card in UFC history, citing too much wrestling, no knockouts, and no drama. For Umar, though, the night wasn't a disappointment, it was redemption. Coming off a loss to Dvalishvili, he needed to prove he could rebound under pressure and control a tough, well-rounded opponent, and he did exactly that. The performance re-established his place in the title conversation, even if it didn't win over everyone watching. As UFC 321 fades into the background, the question now is whether Nurmagomedov's steady, methodical style will be enough to convince matchmakers to give him another title shot, or if, as Paddy Pimblett suggested, he'll need to turn up the intensity and remind fans why the Nurmagomedov name used to mean guaranteed dominance, not cautious control.
Ciryl Gane left Abu Dhabi frustrated after UFC 321, though not for the reasons anyone might have predicted before fight night. Going into the main event against heavyweight champion Tom Aspinall, most expected the Frenchman to either reclaim gold or be stopped by the surging Brit. Instead, the fight ended abruptly after an accidental eye poke forced Aspinall out of the bout, resulting in a no contest that left both fighters and fans unsatisfied. From the opening bell, Gane looked sharp. He managed distance well, stayed light on his feet, and landed several clean combinations on the champion. Aspinall, known for starting fast and overwhelming opponents early, found himself on the defensive more than usual. Gane stuffed an early takedown, tagged Aspinall with a crisp 1-2, and even caused visible damage, with blood streaming from the Brit's nose. But just as the round was winding down, Gane's outstretched fingers caught Aspinall directly in the eye, a freak accident that instantly changed the tone of the fight. "I think I started very well," Gane reflected at the post-fight press conference. "Everybody knows his strategy. He starts hard and surprises his opponent. I think we did well defending the takedown and touching him. We saw some blood on his nose. It was a really great first round, and that's why I was a little disappointed, a little sad about this issue, but this is the sport. While some fans and fellow fighters questioned Aspinall's decision not to continue, Gane refused to join the criticism. He made it clear he believed the eye poke was unintentional and that he understood how serious such injuries can be. "I didn't do it on purpose," Gane said. "I know what it's like. When I fought Derek Lewis, I got poked in the eye and saw 2 Derek Lewis for a round. So I'm not going to say, yeah, he's lying. I understand it completely." The empathy Gane showed contrasted with the tone of UFC CEO Dana White's post-fight comments, which implied that Aspinall had chosen not to fight through the injury. But Gane, who's been in similar circumstances before, focused more on the shared disappointment than assigning blame. If there's any silver lining for the former interim champion, it's that he didn't lose the bout or risk serious damage to his reputation. The no contest preserves his place near the top of the heavyweight division, and Dana White has already confirmed that the promotion intends to rebook the fight as soon as both men are medically cleared. For now, Gane plans to take some much-needed time off to reset before diving into another camp. "First of all, I'm going to take care of myself, see my wife, see my family, see my kids, take some time for me, and then after that, I'll talk to my coach and see when the rematch is happening." While UFC 321 didn't deliver the decisive outcome fans hoped for, it did set the stage for one of the most anticipated rematches in recent heavyweight memory. Both men showed flashes of brilliance in the short-lived contest, and the next meeting, whenever it happens, will carry even more weight as they look to settle unfinished business.
The fallout from UFC 321 continues to ripple through the MMA world, and the latest voices to weigh in are 2 familiar ones. Former UFC title challengers Chael Sonnen and Anthony Smith, both of whom believe Tom Aspinall could have continued fighting despite the brutal eye poke that ended his title defense against Ciryl Gane. Aspinall's first defense of his undisputed heavyweight title was supposed to be a showcase, the moment he stamped his dominance on the division. Instead, it ended in confusion and controversy after Gane's outstretched fingers raked across both of the champion's eyes late in round 1, leaving him unable to see and forcing referee Jason Herzog to call the bout a no contest. The incident shocked fans and fighters alike, not only because of its suddenness, but because of how severe the injury appeared. But while much of the MMA community sympathized with Aspinall, others, including Sonnen and Smith, voiced a tougher stance during the UFC's post-fight broadcast. Speaking with Brendan Fitzgerald, Sonnen argued that while an eye poke is an illegal foul, fighters, particularly champions, are sometimes expected to push through adversity. Being poked in the eye is illegal, Brendan, but to fight with one eye is very common. The opponent is trying to hit your eye. He's trying to bust you up and make your nose bleed. So that part of it does have a question mark for guys like Anthony and I. We're trying to be polite, we're trying to show grace, but in all fairness, you're the heavyweight champion of the world. You've got to fight with one eye at times. Sonnen went further, suggesting that Aspinall's meteoric rise and his string of quick finishes may have left him untested in moments of true adversity. I thought the fight was turning out to be a little bit harder than perhaps Tom expected. My one concern with Tom, and it's not his fault, it's because he's so darn good, but he's finished 6 guys in the first round. He's never been to a third round in his career. So the question is, how are you going to respond when things get tough? Anthony Smith, who's fought through his share of wars inside the octagon, echoed Sonnen's sentiment, though with more nuance. I'm not saying it's Tom's fault, and I'm not going to pretend I know how bad it is or isn't. I think Chael made a poetic point. You have to be used to or willing to fight with one eye. I did it in Singapore. You never say, I can't see, if you want to continue a fight. Smith was referring to his 2022 bout against Ryan Spann, during which he fought through a badly swollen eye.
His comment reflected a broader mindset among some fighters, that admitting you can't see, even in cases of legitimate injury, often leads to a stoppage and criticism afterward. Still, many fans and analysts were quick to push back against Sonnen and Smith's comments, pointing out that Aspinall didn't just take a glancing poke, both of his eyes were affected, one reportedly knuckle-deep, leaving him temporarily blinded. Several eyewitnesses and medical staff confirmed the severity of the injury, and Daniel Cormier, who was cageside, said afterward that Aspinall's right eye was completely bandaged shut backstage, with his left eye also swollen. Medical reports later confirmed corneal abrasions in both eyes and temporary visual impairment, validating the stoppage. For many, the idea that a fighter should continue under those circumstances bordered on reckless. But Sonnen's comments speak to a larger debate in MMA culture, the blurred line between toughness and self-preservation. Some see fighting through injuries as a mark of championship grit. Others see it as an unnecessary gamble with long-term health. As the dust settles, Dana White has already confirmed that a rematch between Aspinall and Gane will be booked once the champion is medically cleared. In the meantime, debates like these, about heart, toughness, and fighter safety, will continue to define the discourse around UFC 321's chaotic ending. Whether or not Aspinall should have tried to continue remains a matter of perspective. For Sonnen and Smith, it's about the mentality of a champion. For others, it's about basic human limits. What's certain is that UFC 321 won't be remembered for who won or lost, but for the fine line that every fighter walks between bravery and survival inside the cage.
Tom Aspinall has shared his first detailed health update since the shocking ending to his heavyweight title defense at UFC 321, where an accidental double eye poke from Ciryl Gane forced the fight to be stopped in the opening round. What was meant to be the British champion's first defense of his undisputed title turned into one of the most frustrating moments of his career, as he was left unable to see and the bout was ruled a no contest after just 4 minutes and 35 seconds. The immediate aftermath was chaotic. Aspinall was quickly transported from the Etihad Arena in Abu Dhabi to a nearby hospital, where he underwent scans and medical evaluations. Early fears of a serious injury were eased when doctors confirmed that while both eyes had sustained corneal abrasions, there was no structural or permanent damage detected. Still, his vision was temporarily impaired, and physicians instructed him not to resume any training or competition until he received further clearance from specialists in the UK. On Sunday, Aspinall released a 47-minute video on his YouTube channel that documented the entire day, from his calm, focused pre-fight preparation to the chaotic backstage scenes following the injury. The footage captured his visible frustration and disbelief, particularly when hearing doctors discuss the severity of the poke. "All that training for that?" he muttered at one point, shaking his head. "He got warned twice before it, and he still did it again." The video also showed moments from inside the hospital, including the eye examination itself. In one scene, a doctor delivered cautious but reassuring news. "We didn't find anything dangerous," he told Aspinall. "You should stop fighting until you are cleared from our side, but everything looks like it will recover. We just need to make sure your vision returns fully to normal." The 32-year-old champion appeared relieved but still emotionally drained. "Waiting for further results," he said at the end of the video. "We've got to do some more tests in the UK as well. We're flying back today and we'll go from there." Aspinall's condition has become one of the major talking points in the aftermath of UFC 321, especially after Dana White's post-fight comments stirred controversy. While the UFC CEO later clarified that a rematch between Aspinall and Gane was the fight that makes sense, he initially appeared to question whether the champion could have continued. The remarks drew backlash from fans and fighters alike, many of whom felt Aspinall was unfairly portrayed as unwilling to fight through a serious injury. White has since confirmed that the UFC plans to rebook the matchup as soon as Tom's medically cleared, acknowledging that the ending was deeply unfortunate. "It's a total pain in the ass, but the rematch is what makes sense," he said. "There will probably be even more interest in it now after everything that happened."
For now, the focus remains on Aspinall's recovery and the results of his follow-up medical exams. While he avoided permanent damage, his return will depend on how quickly his eyesight stabilizes, something that cannot be rushed in a sport where vision is everything. The UFC's move to Paramount marks the start of what could be one of the most transformative eras in combat sports broadcasting, but not everyone is thrilled with how the promotion is choosing to introduce it. After Dana White's August announcement confirming the record-breaking $7.7 billion deal, the excitement around the UFC shift from ESPN to Paramount Plus has been building steadily, with fans curious to see how the new home will reshape the presentation and accessibility of the sport. The ESPN era has defined modern UFC coverage, from the Fight Night expansion to pay-per-view integrations. But with the contract expiring at the end of 2025, Paramount is stepping in to take over every UFC Fight Night and numbered card starting in early 2026. Subscribers will be able to stream events directly through Paramount Plus for around $8 to $13 per month, with major cards also airing on CBS, echoing the days when UFC occasionally found a home on broadcast television. To get the hype rolling, Paramount recently dropped a cinematic promotional trailer teasing the partnership, but the reaction online was mixed. The short clip showcased several of the UFC's marquee names in a dramatic montage that ended with the octagon morphing into Paramount's iconic mountain logo. The featured lineup included Israel Adesanya, Ilia Topuria, Jon Jones, Kayla Harrison, and Merab Dvalishvili, all recognizable figures but not necessarily the ones fans expected to see representing the next generation of the UFC. Within hours, social media lit up with reactions questioning the choices. Many were surprised to see Jon Jones featured so prominently after announcing his retirement earlier this year, while others wondered why current champions like Alex Pereira and Islam Makhachev were absent. The backlash ranged from disappointment to outright disbelief. Some fans mocked the inclusion of Adesanya, who has struggled in his last few outings, calling him washed up and out of place as a promotional centerpiece for 2026. Others pointed out the lack of representation for active dominant champions, especially those from the surging Dagestani contingent that currently rules several divisions. Comments like, "No Islam, no Potan, no like," and "UFC really using a retired Jon Jones and 03 Izzy to promote the future" captured the general tone of the online response. Even Conor McGregor's name popped up repeatedly, with fans noting his absence despite his historical role in driving mainstream attention to the sport. Still, the pushback wasn't unanimous. Some defended the UFC's creative direction, arguing that Adesanya remains one of the most recognizable faces in global MMA, and that Jones, regardless of his status, is a symbol of legacy and greatness that fits the cinematic tone of the campaign. "Izzy is still the face of the UFC. No one else has that star power," one fan wrote. Others echoed similar sentiments about Jones, viewing his inclusion as a nod to the promotion's history rather than its immediate future. What the trailer made clear is that Paramount and the UFC are betting big on star power, both past and present, to capture a wider audience as they transition into this new era. The deal is as much about branding as it is about distribution, and Paramount seems intent on framing the UFC not just as a sports property, but a blockbuster entertainment brand, the kind of content that can anchor its streaming service alongside major franchises. While some fans may have bristled at the choices, the discussion itself shows that the UFC's marketing machine hasn't lost its touch. It's still capable of stirring debate, driving attention, and keeping people talking. As 2026 approaches, all eyes will be on how the partnership unfolds, whether Paramount's sleek presentation and broader accessibility can match the cultural momentum the UFC built under ESPN. The mixed reactions to the first promo may just be the start of a larger conversation about how the UFC wants to present itself in its next phase, not just as a fight league, but as a global spectacle.
Mackenzie Dern is officially the new UFC Women's Strawweight Champion, and she is already looking ahead to her next challenge. The Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu ace captured the vacant 115-pound title in the co-main event of UFC 321 in Abu Dhabi, earning a hard-fought unanimous decision win over Virna Jandiroba. The victory marked her second triumph over Jandiroba following their 2020 bout that went the distance.
This time, however, the stakes were much higher, and Dern's composure, striking, and cardio all showed the evolution of a fighter who's finally put everything together at the elite level. After the fight, Dern appeared both emotional and confident as she celebrated with her corner before addressing the media. During the post-fight press conference, the new champion made it clear she's ready to defend her title as soon as possible. And she already has one name in mind if former champion Zhang Weili doesn't return to the division. I don't know how much say I have now being a champion. I don't know how much my word and my decisions get into play. But I'm here to defend it. So whoever gets sent to me, I'll be ready for. I don't know if Zhang Weili will come back, but I definitely like to fight Tatiana Suarez. Maybe she gets one more fight in. I want to have a couple more fights with some grapplers. The call-out immediately caught fans' attention, and for good reason. Tatiana Suarez has long been considered one of the most dangerous wrestlers in women's MMA. After battling injuries and time away from the sport, she returned in September to dominate Amanda Lemos in a unanimous decision win, re-establishing herself as one of the top contenders in the division. Before that, her only professional loss came against Zhang Weili in a title fight. But many still see her as championship material with her relentless pressure and top control. Meanwhile, Zhang Weili has her sights set on a new challenge. The former two-time strawweight queen will move up in weight to face Valentina Shevchenko for the UFC Women's Flyweight Championship at UFC 322 on November 22nd in New York City. If Zhang wins, she could remain at 125 pounds to chase new opportunities. But if she loses, a return to strawweight and a showdown with Dern could become one of the biggest fights in the division's history. For now, Dern is focused on cementing her reign and proving that she's not just a jiu-jitsu specialist, but a complete mixed martial artist. Over the past few years, she's rounded out her game under coach Jason Perillo, sharpening her striking and developing a calm, measured approach inside the cage. Against Jandiroba, she showcased precise movement, effective use of the jab, and improved takedown setups, a testament to her evolution as a true champion. Whether her next defense comes against Tatiana Suarez, Zhang Weili, or another rising contender, one thing is clear. Mackenzie Dern has arrived at the top of the mountain, and she's not planning to step down anytime soon. Fans can expect the new champion to stay active, hungry, and ready to prove that her time as the face of the strawweight division has only just begun.